wanna ride. So baby, get with me, 'cause this party goes on all night. You navigate is right, 'cause when you're rolling with a G, 'cause this party goes on all night.
Hello and good day, everyone. Welcome to the Real Source Podcast, and I'm your host, JD. And this is episode 1. In today's topic, we will be covering, should a woman be allowed to keep all her money and the man pay all the bills? Now, under certain circumstances where you're in a relationship with someone, let's say you're married, everybody has a role that they have to play, right? So if the man is paying all the bills and he's doing all the, what you call the monetary controlling as far as paying the bills, allocating bills to certain things, then it's for the woman's job to be able to add to that. Adding to that is not giving headaches. Adding to that is being able to do household things, working with the kids if you have kids, doing things that are more, how could I say, universal, as opposed to the one-dimensional aspect of a man paying the bills. Whether you're in a relationship or you're married, this is a partnership and you always have to come and work together as a unit. So the easier both parties understand what they're capable of bringing to the table and what their strong points are and suits is better suited for what the relationship's progress will become. And that being said, me as being a man, if I'm paying all the bills, I also know how to cook and I also know how to clean as well too. So there are certain moments where we can break that up. But for the most part, if this is what my duty is and solely what my duty is, then you have to find your place in the household of what you are willing to add to the table. I think in today's society, a lot of us, we get caught up in this fixated old school mentality. And at one point in time, that might have worked many, many years ago in the 40s and 50s. But now we're living in a different society today where you need both parties to partake. And some women actually work and some men actually stay home. So it varies depending on the situation. With that being said, this goes for all the people that are willing to put full effort into doing the best in what they can to provide, to also give to the relationship comfort and love. With that being said, I don't think that there's anything wrong with it. I think there's something wrong with it if the woman wants to keep all her money and she don't want to do nothing at all. If she don't want to do nothing at all and you allowing her to do that, then you basically a fool. And it's that simple. You don't get by in life just doing whatever it is that you want. There has to be structure. There has to be a plan. There has to be a blueprint. And whether it's the man or the woman that decides that, whatever's being taken as the major role, which comes from the monetary aspect of the paying the bills, of buying the groceries, and all that other stuff that's allocated with that. With that being said, you need the partner to play their part, And like I said, again, I hate to sound like a broken record, but you got to know how to cook, baby girl. You got to know how to clean. You got to know how to do some things that require household, applications, things that some of us haven't been taught, some of us have been taught, and some of us need to learn on the go, And so I feel like for those of us that have a full grasp of that spectrum, if both parties do what they're supposed to do, everything works out fine. Everything works out smooth, Let's be in unison and in tune with each other, not against each other, So, sometimes I think about friends that I have. I won't mention anybody's name, but one of my mans, his wife came from another country. He keeps her home. She don't go out. She don't do nothing. She cooks, she cleans, she does all of that, but he pays all the bills. She's happy and he's happy. So with that being said, it applies to the people that are willing to do that and to go the full extent. This show was sponsored by Clean Connect 360 Cleaning Services. You point, we clean. So now we're entering topic 2 on the same episode, which basically is covering, should a man pay all the bills? Some women say yes, some women say no, some women say 50-50. I think that specifically works depending on the type of woman that you have. There's some women out there that are go-getters, and they hustle and they work their asses off and they're busy all day, So in that sense, when they're with a man that is also doing the same thing, that to me could be a little more 50-50, because you have to fluctuate between the realities of what your daily occupations are, as well as your recreational activities or when you're free. The women that say yes, that's completely fine if you're willing to do your part. The women that say no, and this is going to probably sound a little cold, but I can only speak one way. The women that say no, to me, they're just selfish people, and they only think about themselves. And those are not the type of women that you want to be with, especially if you're trying to create a household environment, whether you have children, animals, or it's just y'all. I think, again, it all applies to what type of person you are. So I'll use me for an example, right? If I'm wealthy and I'm paying for everything, you need to know how to do something. And you be good at whatever it is that you're doing, and you try your best. Even if it's not the best, if you try your best, I will still be willing to be appreciative of what it is that you bring to the table. Now, if it's no, well, right off the rip, I'm gonna let you know this ain't going down, because my mama worked, my mama cooked, my mama cleaned, my daddy worked, my daddy cooked a little bit and he cleaned. So I grew up in a household where I was showed a balance of how you can be successful in a relationship, giving more and expecting less, coming at 100%. And splitting that 60-40, that 60 being given more and expecting less. I think if both parties do that and they communicate openly and honestly, things have a tendency to go a little bit more smoother. As far as the 50-50 goes, I'm 50-50 with whatever it is that you're willing to do, if that's the type of vibe you want. Some days you can treat, some days I treat. Some days, we do nothing, some days we do something. But regardless of whatever it is that we do, we have to be comfortable in the confinements of who we are as people. And when you have that innate thing about you, some reason it seems to flourish without even trying, the energy and the adaptation that two people have between each other. So you hear a lot of women today say, oh, no, I ain't doing no 50-50. And, but yet they want you to pay for their nails. They want you to pay for their hair. They want you to pay for everything. Take them out to dinner, pay for the movies, regardless of whatever it is. And the best way that I could say this is from a brother like myself who has experienced a lot of things in my time. No matter how much or how bad you want sex, it ain't worth doing all of that if that's what it takes to just get a little bit of booty. You gotta extend yourself a little bit. There's gotta be a little bit more of an initiative. And I think in today's society, you got a lot of men that act like women and women who act like men. So we need to change that. This show was sponsored by Clean Connect 360 Cleaning Services. You point, we clean. So topic 3 is dealing with, should a man say something, or does he have the right to say something? I think it's based on the control of the household and, who's willing to submit. And I know a lot of women hate that word. And who's the one that is dictating. There's certain levels of submission that we all have to comply to, whether it's us working for somebody else, having a client, children, relationship. So in the turn of events, if I'm paying all the bills, then yes, I have every right to say something. Just like equally, you have every right to say something. This is an equal thing. This is not, I'm more powerful than you or you're more meaningful than me. This is, we're equally on the same level. So therefore, us equally being on the same level, both parts of that's added by both parties are intricate in the development of your relationship. So, for example, if you say that you want to go out with your girlfriends, right? That's cool. But now if you say every weekend you want to go out with your girlfriends, I'm going to tell you no. Why? Because I don't think that that's productive to what it is that we're trying to create. See, there's things that people like to take advantage of, and one of those things are people's kindness. So when you allow someone to take advantage of you, what they're going to do is continuously abuse you and the same thing over and over and over again. How you deal with that is you nip that right in the ass right away and you put it in line. So therefore, when you do say something, it's not a problem. It's not always an argument. They already have a better understanding of how your mindset is. I'm going to say something whether you give me the right or not, only because we are in the same household. We're in a relationship, and communication is one of the, if not the most important aspect of a relationship, especially when you're trying to cultivate some type of frequency with the person that you're with. So I think a lot of times in instances of the manner of this topic is you get some men that they'll pay all the bills, but they're suckers, so they feel like they should just be taking care of that and not do anything else, whereas you get women who like the control and like a certain aspect of the manipulation of them being able to dictate to the man, so in every instance, we should always give the best of what we each individual has to the table. And when in doing that, it will come out with a better landscape. You'll come out with a better ending, as opposed to you just shutting up and being quiet. Something I learned in life, when you keep your mouth closed, you don't get fed. So this applies with everything else universally. And I think the more and more that we come to terms with what is important to us and how we are able to allocate that and direct that in a communicative aspect, the better results we will get in time. And it doesn't happen right away. It's a self-development where you have to reflect on yourself, and the woman has to also reflect on herself as well too. So that way, when you come together, it's not argumentative. It's not debating. It's in unison. It's in a vibe, which is funny because I hear people use that word all the time, and that word's been around forever. So if we're going on vibes, then you should know, okay, maybe I don't need to do this, or maybe I shouldn't act this way, or maybe I shouldn't speak to her this way because I know I'm going to get a negative response. Once you're more cognizant of the reality of what you're in, and you take the necessary steps to have consideration and being positive in what it is that you have to address, because the cause and effect is always based off of the language and how you deliver the message. Up next, did you know? So don't go anywhere. This show was sponsored by Clean Connect 360 Cleaning Services. You point, we clean. Did you know that John Lee Love was the first black man to invent the pencil sharpener in 1897? He made other inventions, but he was most notably recognized for the pencil sharpener, which is also still used till this day. Thank you for tuning into the Real Source Podcast. I'm your host, JD. And if you enjoyed the episode, please share it with a friend and subscribe to YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Be kind, be well, and be safe. I'm out.
I know you wanna ride.